When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Ludlow with the Fearless Mindset Podcast, coming to you from Southern Oregon. We got my flag there because smoke out there from the fires. Anyway, I have Adrianne Wynne wanted to join us and share her story. She's actually in New Jersey, getting ready to come back to San Francisco, where she's the head of security for the Chase Center in San Francisco. And we started talking offline a few times, and she's just a great communicator and has the ability to tell a great story about her background. And she was in journalism in college, studied journal and media, and then she got a business background, and all of a sudden she leaped into the Prudential Center. And I'm going to let you take it from there and tell us your story.
Yeah, well, first off, Mark, thanks so much for having me on the podcast. I do want to clarify, I'm the head of event security at Chase Center. We do have our VP of security, which I work, very closely with. But so I went to, it all got started. I've been in the arena industry for almost 14 years, in the venue industry. And prior to that, for a couple of years, I worked for Clear Channel, which is now iHeartMedia. And so I graduated from Cook College, which is a constituent school within Rutgers University. So, born and raised in Jersey, went to high school in New Jersey, college in New Jersey, and decided, okay, what am I going to do when I graduate? I was a journalism major, minored in environmental science, loved writing, not very good at math, but stay away from
Next
that.
Two of us.
Not the best, but I loved entertainment like everybody does. I love music, right? So how do you even remotely get into a career where I don't want to be a journalist, so to say? So, poured through interview books at Barnes and Noble, years ago, and, interviewed for assistant positions and found one at Power 105, a top hip hop station in New York City, and loved it. Was there as a sales assistant. It got me into the client world and, creating presentations with account reps, and they treated me so well at Power. I loved working there, and then thought, okay, do I want to stay in radio? Right. If I do, I don't really want to do sales. I'm not sure if I want to do marketing. How do I grow this into a career? I'm very driven when it comes to, well, what do I want to do? I want to take care of myself. I'm pretty independent. How do I grow this? Right. So then there was an opportunity at Katz Media, which Katz, Clear Channel owned Katz Media, and Katz Media, oversees 4,000 radio stations and 500 TV stations, and they're across, the U.S. And okay, well, this is great. Now I could be a marketing coordinator and be involved with selling ad space across the U.S. So, just trying to branch out and see where can this lead to? And, I'm very loyal to a company, and Power treated me so well, and I could still work with Power, and I would still be under the Clear Channel radio, the bubble, so to say. So I wasn't there that long until, Prudential Center came on board. So, I really enjoyed working, again, in the radio industry, but it wasn't something that I didn't see myself going into it completely. I didn't want to sell.
You do broadcasting? Yeah.
So I thought, I don't want to, I don't think I'm going to be on air. I'm not going to go on the radio, right? I'm helping account reps sell ads. And am I really passionate about that? I loved working in that industry, but long term, I just didn't see myself staying in the industry. And
you didn't see yourself as a Howard Stern on the radio at all.
no, I did. I thought, now I look back, I'm like, oh, it would have been fun. But now it's just, where can I basically go from here? And like I said, I'm always looking for, what's long term, because like I said, I do want to, if I could, stay at one company, X, Y, and Z, but where do I see myself? What am I the most passionate about? Because it is important. If you're lucky enough to find something you truly love, the hard work is just going to come because you're so passionate. You can't wait to go to work every day. And, I did find that at Power and Cats, but there was something still that I just don't see it long term. So Prudential Center came on board, and there was an opportunity to be a part of a team that was opening that building. And so 30 days prior to opening that building, I interviewed for an assistant manager position overseeing our premium services team. So that was appealing to me because I was used to dealing with clients, big, high-end clients, being involved with the account reps, creating their presentations with them and meeting clients and sending them ad space, et cetera. I felt I could transition that into the venue world. And I was doing promotional events for the radio stations. But now it's like I've never been in this industry. I was fortunate enough where my father had been in the industry before he retired for almost 30 years. So, I knew of the industry. I interned at Madison Square Garden in college in the PR team, in the PR department. But it still was never a thought to get into the venue side. And I don't know why, but I just never was a thought to go into there as a career. Right. And so when I was hired, it was, I can't even explain how intense opening a building 30 days prior to that first event. And working with very talented people, and you're boots to the ground. That's it. You are thrown in, and it's okay. You're going to oversee all the premium accounts. You're also going to help with sending out all their ticketing. So the New Jersey Devils played at Prudential Center, and I need you to also oversee, schedule, train, and staff a group of concierge reps. So, when it came to management, I did see myself I felt like I had leadership qualities, but I had never managed. I managed a team of interns at Power, but I didn't have any management experience. But I thought, okay, you know what? I think I could do this. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't intimidated. I just thought, I can do this. And when we opened, it was just incredible. I mean, it was the first venue in the New York metropolitan area since the 70s. And, that in and of itself, you're in Newark, New Jersey. So you're in the central business district of Newark, New Jersey. So there's a lot of parts, right? You have parking garages, you have high-rise buildings. So from a safety perspective, okay, this is big. You're in the middle of the city. The Devils went from playing at Izod Center in the middle of a parking lot to now we're moving them over into the middle of Newark, New Jersey. So, and then we have NJ Transit down the street, which is great because it's so easy to get to this building. But now we have to get guests. How's that path of travel from the train station over to the building? How is parking going to look? How is traffic? So all of that, I worked with security, but I was guest services. But you have to work together. Guest services and event security and building security, it really is all in one. And at Prudential Center, I did work alongside with our security team, but I was, focused heavily on our customer service. And, you start seeing patterns with guest complaints. You start seeing, the security measures that the venue is taking, and then, how guests feel about that. And, you look back, that was in 2007 to where we are today, and it has, made significant changes to venues based on security measures. But at the end of the day, the customer service always has to stay the same. So that's a hard balance, because it's, as much as you tell guests to arrive early to the venue, you have guests that show up, 10 minutes before before tip off or before the puck drops. And why are there lines here? And we're in a different time. We want to keep safety and security is number one. It's number one. And obviously customer service is number one too. So it's a fine balance. And that's why this industry is a little more unique. We work with our police departments, we work with our fire departments, we work with, we have a canine unit, you work with NBA security, touring security, and all these components have to come together. And, we had police in Newark outside the venue. And then you saw as years went on, after unfortunate catastrophic terrorist events, now the increases that came, which you saw at the airport and then you saw at venues. So again, it's that balance of what can we do to make sure guests are safe, but you still have to get 18,000 people in 1 hour. That's a lot.
18,000
in 1 hour, potentially. It all depends. If you have an opening act, is the opening act popular? Are guests going to want to show up and see the opening act? No? Okay, well, now that gives us 2 hours. That could give us even 2.5 hours to get 18,000 in. So, you start seeing as you grow in the industry, things you can and can't do. And again, it's just that balance. So, Prudential Center, I was there for almost a little over 5 years. We went to the Stanley Cup finals. I mean, that experience alone is to do that so quickly. When you get into the industry, some people never do a finals, and to be able to have done that was incredible. We had the New Jersey Nets play for 2 years. And so, basketball, you have guests on the playing surface. So our security team went from, we have a rink that no guests are around and have access to now our security has to learn basketball. And it's not, basketball, you're protecting that court. Your security numbers increase significantly on the court. And you look, as an employee, should you know basketball? I mean, it helps, yeah, because of the timeouts. And when there's a timeout, how are your security officers going onto the court? Where are you positioning them? What are they aware of? The players come in and out of vomitories or tunnels, right? So Well, you should have security over those tunnels. And so when the Nets came in, that was okay. You got to know basketball. And if you have a contract security team that doesn't have that experience, because you're a new building, that there's a lot of training involved. So, the VP of security, it was a lot. He had to make sure that his team was ready. And it was, again, a great learning experience for everybody. And, everyone, that building, when we opened, we hired over 60%. We hired new residents that a lot of the employees didn't have experience working at a venue. There's a new venue in Newark, and it can go one of two ways, right? You have to train staff that aren't experienced in a venue, right? And you can mold and you can train and mentor, and they excel. And that is exactly what happened at Prudential Center. The teams there just really were excited and just so thrilled to have a venue in their city, and it showed. And the customer service and the security measures, and it was just overall Prudential Center. I hold that building so dearly to me because I learned so much, and just such a great group of people over there. So, and it became a top 10 revenue generating building very quickly. And it remains a top 10 generating revenue building. And, they continue to get really great shows. The Devils, the Devils is the only team in New Jersey, only sports team. So, they're just continuing to do great things. They just had the VMAs last year. I mean, so kudos to that building. It's been open since '07, and they just continue to do amazing things. So awesome to be a part of that. And then, MSG came to the table.
Right.
And, MSG, when I interned there in college, I thought there's no way I can work at that building if I wanted to out of college, because I just didn't feel, that's an intimidating building. I mean, it's in the middle of Manhattan. It's
Sure.
the world's most famous arena.
Yep.
And
let me ask you this, Adrianne.
Yeah.
You're in college getting your degree. You majored in journalism, right? In business?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking your senior year in college? Were you thinking you'd be going into stadiums and managing thousands of people? What was in your head your senior year in college? What did you want to do?
That was the problem. I didn't know. I had no clue. No, I did not even. And like I said, my father's been in this industry for 30 years.
Was he in law enforcement at one time?
No.
Oh, okay. He was in the security industry. Okay.
Yeah. So he's security and guest services and front of house operations. Wow. Yeah. So front of house operations. Okay. And so no clue. But I knew that if I wanted to have a career in any industry, I just thought I just have to get an assistant job somewhere, and then it'll go from there because I'm going to work hard. That was always, and that's why, that's why I looked at every interview book possible. What questions is someone going to ask a recent graduate? I just did my research so I would be prepared. And then I just set goals on, okay, well, within a couple of years, I'd like to be in this position. I would like to be, a director before 30. I would like to be, a vice president before X, Y, and Z. That eventually changed once I got into the arena industry. I mean, that really changed because it was just passion driven. And I have been very lucky throughout my career in the venue industry. There were opportunities that were presented where I could quickly move up and take on additional responsibility and go from there. So
seems like you thrive in chaos quite easily.
I mean, it's live events is very chaotic,
Yeah, I bet.
Once those doors open, you got to rock and roll. There's no, we're going, and it's very stressful. It is.
It is.
Yep. But it's.
And you have how many moving parts when you're running an event? How many moving parts? And you have 400 people that you're in charge of all your guards and detector devices and all that. You have a lot of people going on at once.
Yeah. So when I got the opportunity to work at the Garden, I ended up within a year or two in arena ops, which, look, did I think in my head by the end I would be overseeing event security? No, but I did want to manage guest services and security. And the position that I was in at the time was not a part of arena ops, but I knew, I mean, that was the goal. That was the dream, right? To be a part of that. And then I was, again, fortunate enough where opportunities presented itself where the LA Forum was opening. And I was asked, because I had that experience just opening up Prudential Center, do you want to be a part of opening up the Forum? Now, the LA Forum, that's an iconic building. I mean, Led Zeppelin, Madonna, the Eagles, amazing acts have played there. They had basketball before the Staples Center. They had that building is iconic, and MSG bought it. They renovated it. And I went out there to LA and worked 3 shows, and it was intense. And it was a huge, learning experience on all of our ends. And because it wasn't a sporting facility, it was just going to be a music venue. And again, there's so many great people in this industry that when when you work with anyone in the arena industry, it's just, you automatically just have a good time. Like we're
a big old party.
it's music and sports, like at the end of the day.
It is.
It's really stressful and chaotic, but at the same time, the product is, it's an awesome product. So after that,
which ones are the most fun to work with? The celebrities or the basketball players or the artists? Which ones are the most fun to be around? Because the basketball players are in basketball mode. They want to win the game. They're probably all pissed off, ready to go dunk on people.
I mean, that's honestly, to me, I've always loved working concerts because
Interesting.
It's different. Every concert is different. Every artist is different. Every tour is different. I have so much respect for the touring industry because it is an industry that people, right now, that industry is going through incredibly hard times. I mean, who would have thought that we wouldn't have concerts? And you have crews, stagehand, tour security, production teams, merch teams that live on the road. They are not with their families. They're not with their friends. They sacrifice that time. When you work in a venue, you sacrifice that, but you're still near your family. You still have days off. I'm not on the road for 2 months. I'm not on the road 3 months. So when tours come in, just to see that lifestyle that they're living, and you want to make sure that they are extremely comfortable coming into your venue, especially a new venue. Because if I've been on the road for a month and now I have to come into a new market that has a building, that's a lot of work, right? And that's a lot of work. The artist has never been here. We've never rigged a stage. We've never we just have never been in this building. And, I haven't had a day off in 10 days. I'm tired. And so we want to make sure that it's a challenge every time, but it's a good challenge because you build that relationship and you see how incredible these teams are that, to me, even still watching a stage be built, how road cases come in and all of a sudden, they're rigging and lights and there's a stage in 6 hours. I mean, it's incredible. This
is like a science. I went to my first concert in the Portland Rose Garden, I think is at Moda Center now. My sisters and I went there after my dad died of cancer, and they put that stage up there. And I'm just looking how the engineering went in, the building, construction of that stage, and Carrie Underwood going around doing her thing, and the props lifting her up little elevators and stuff. I was just amazed on what those stagehands have to do from each city daily. Yeah. It's like its own little world. I couldn't believe it.
It is. And, again, almost 14 years of seeing it, it's still just everyone, if they can, should see a stage being built. And even a changeover when you go from hockey to a concert or basketball to a hockey game. I've never worked in a stadium. Watching just a concert roll into a stadium, that is, the magnitude. I have so much respect for stadium employees because that's a huge undertaking, especially for a show. And, so
the rock bands are probably your favorite music genres. That's probably your favorite to work, meeting the artists and the producers and the artists themselves. And
I deal with tour security directors. I don't have, there's no need for me to get involved with any artist talk or I just want to make sure whatever the needs are for the show that we're, when they come into the venue, and how do we get the artist to the dressing room? How is the artist going? If they want to go, they might have a friend on the suite level. They might have, they want to go check this out. We had an artist who was from San Francisco that wanted to tour the building, and it's okay. That's awesome. You're so passionate to play here and it's in your town. And we want to make sure that you feel comfortable touring the building. So then, doing that path of travel with her security director. And I like that whole I just like that whole world. I do love working with the NBA and the NHL security reps. Again, with the players, minimal interaction. Event security and, building security and event security. The goal, again, is just everyone has to feel safe from not just your fans, but your teams, artists, touring crew, everyone that's in that building. That's the goal. So, it is a big undertaking when you're thinking about, okay, 18,000 guests. Now you have all the players. Now you have the refs. Now you have, if you have a show, the artist, his touring camp, his crew, his or her crew. Then we have our own employees. You're staffing up to 1,000 employees per event. And that includes your food and beverage, your custodial, building security, guest services, custodial. And because now venues are going in a direction where they have, there's no more popcorn and hot dogs. That's it. It's now we want this gourmet food and they want to elevate that experience for guests. Well, that, what that comes with? Well, you're having chefs and sous chefs, and then you got a food prep. So so throughout the day, now you're having employees come in because they're prepping, and you went from having, this number of food and beverage employees, and now that has grown significantly because of your food quality. And so, having that experience, and then having also, you want to have more concession stands now, clubs, right? You're having restaurants in venues. So instead of one main concourse or two main concourses with one suite level, now buildings have all these levels. And, the garden is very unique in the sense that the floor is the court is on the 5th level, and there's a theater on the 1st level. So, when you walk in to the venue, you're going up to the 5th floor, and you're going to, if you want to go right to, if you have seats on the court. So, sure. And then, your other concourses keep going up and up and up because you're above you're above a railroad platform. You have Amtrak, NJ Transit. I mean, it's incredible how they built that building, right? And logistically, you have to get 18,000 people. At the time, we were using, one main entrance because right. We do have that theater that we also have to get people in as well sometimes at the same time. So it's your people forget there's a theater. So you could have 3 Sesame shows on a Sunday, and then you have a Knicks game in the morning and then Rangers at night. But you also have to get the Sesame Street, the 3 shows in and out using the same entrance for Knicks and Rangers. And then, with Sesame, you have strollers, right? So we have 200 sure. strollers. Where are we putting 200 strollers? We would put that in the main entrance. So you have to navigate that. And then at the time that I was there, we went from, after the Boston bombing, you saw more, metal detectors now in buildings. When I started at the Garden, we had handheld metal detector. We had the hand wands. Then we had metal detectors, and they're big. They're big, and you got to move them in and out, and you got to get people in, and you got to get people out, but they're coming in the same way they're going out. So you got to move everything. And who's doing that? So you're constantly adjusting your security plans. You're constantly, if you're a union building versus non-union, who's doing X, Y, and Z? And the Garden, what was so great about, working there was you just didn't get better on the job experience. So you are every day there's 320 events almost a year. So
that's a lot of events.
Yeah, it never, it just doesn't stop, which is, the amount that you learn. And then because of unfortunate events, you keep having to change your SOPs, and, you have to keep adjusting. And then at the same time, though, tours, right. You have to adjust with tours. So every show, they might have played in 2014, but in 2015, now we have this. And that's not it. and they might, oh, well, that wasn't what you had last year, but it's now but you have to stay ahead of that, right? So, and that's important when you're advancing with shows, that they know, well, we, due to X, Y, and Z, we changed X, Y, and Z. And like I said, you always want the goal is everyone feels comfortable coming into your venue, no matter who they are, whether it's your own employee, a part-time employee, or it's an artist, a tour crew, or a basketball player. Everyone wants to have that experience. So,
like you said, the COVID-19 came in and just crushed everything this last year, 8 months, and everybody's sitting at home and nobody's getting a paycheck because they're not selling tickets and all that. So that's had a major effect on the industry. And so I'm sure there's probably policies in place, procedures in place now how they're going to reopen whenever they do. Are they going to be reopening in 2021, or what's the word out there in the Warrior organization?
Yes, I mean, at this point, we're waiting to see what, the NBA is going to finish up playoffs. And once, the championship game is complete and the season is complete, they're going to start with next season. So we're just waiting to see where we are.
Well, I'm hearing from a lot of high-level guys in the security world. Like I had Mike Trout on, James Hamilton on. They both thought that what they're hearing from the docs out there, everybody's waiting for therapies or vaccines. So I figured probably the NBA is in that same position. I'm guessing. I'm probably assuming that everybody's waiting for that vaccine or therapy to hit the market from the drug makers. And once they have that, they probably open everything up. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're in everyone's same boat. We're just waiting to see what where we want to go next. And, right now the tours aren't touring. So, we can't even make a decision on what we want to do. And, NBA, again, we're waiting to see when they want to restart the next season, and then we can go from there. So, we haven't, we opened in September. So we opened September 6th, and, in March, March, we were about to play a game, and then the day before, the NBA said, we have to halt the season. So,
wow.
We
and the Chase Center and the Warriors are such a huge pulse of the San Francisco Bay Area. I mean, the Warriors, Steph Curry, Steve Kerr, coach. I mean, that the iconic team of all West Coast, I think. You got you have the Warriors and you have the LA Lakers and the Clippers, but I think because they won so many championships, they're like everybody's looking forward to watching them play, and it just re-inspires the whole culture down there of the Silicon Valley, the tech world, everything's interwoven within the Golden State Warriors. It seems like to me, and Steph Curry is such a nice guy. He seems to have such a good reputation out there with his fans. But yeah, that was a big hit for sure. And I want to go back to our conversation we had about how there's very different cultures with the different bands and the rock stars and the different performers and stuff. It's like from going basketball to the culture of working concerts, the way they do things are so different.
Yeah, but ultimately, they're still very common.
Are they?
There's no matter what. I mean, it does help. You need to know, because shows are so different. A country show, rock shows, hip hop shows, Latin shows, circus, Disney shows. Every event, no matter how many tickets are sold, no matter how small it is, you still treat it the same. And when that artist pulls in, well, I mean, it starts very early when you load in. You're loading in, usually around 8 a.m. And once that tour starts coming in and your stage hands are coming in and they start building the stage, and then, you're meeting your venue security director. I usually advance, if I can, a month prior to the show. Sometimes it's a lot, it's further out. If it's if you have, say, a WWE, if you have a UFC, you're advancing that there's so much involved with those events. They're just really large scale events. And when you have multiple talent, right? So,
Right.
boxing is very different than WWE, than UFC, right? And that sometimes it's more challenging because you have you have all these fighters, and then you have all these camps, and, there's a lot of security involved with that versus
Mm-hmm.
then, a show, okay, rock and roll show. We want to make sure everyone's comfortable, but our main, you got to look at the audience. What's the audience? That's the most important. That's what makes every show different, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's a rock show or a country show. It's who's coming to the show, right? Is it a younger audience? Is it an older audience? Is it what's the ratio for male to female, right? Because logistically, if you have more females or more males, you might want to change things within the venue. Your restrooms, for example, maybe we need to flip more towards male. Maybe we need to flip more for female. It all depends, right? But then you're also looking at, okay, how's this show going to go? Meaning, is the show known to have high ejection rates due to intoxication or illegal substances? Is this known to, you always ask the main questions, is this a high medical show? Is this, what's the target audience? Is this high ejection, high arrests? When you're advancing with the security director, just so you know how you want to staff it, right? Because you also, and there's obviously so many other questions that goes into an advance, but you just want to know that going in so you can prepare as best as possible, right? Because I oversee our medical department, so we have a medical events team, and it's really important that going in, they know everything in the advance as well, because, okay, do we need a third ambulance, or do we need more EMTs? And that's even with basketball, right? They have their own medical team, but we are involved with them. We have EMTs that are near the court because, you want to make sure if a player goes down,
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing? Is the player going to have to be transported? We're involved with that. We have to be aware of that. And it's the same with shows, and it's the same with other sports teams. So
You have to master a lot of variety and a lot of complexities with your role. It's pretty amazing you've been able to pull that all off, and from your background, now you're running Chase Center, and I thought it was how interesting it was to me when we were offline. You're telling me about how much money they put in technology of security, which you can't go into in detail because it's very secure information, and I get that. But you said they spent a lot of money just to make sure everything was safe over there at that stadium when they built it.
yeah, and you're seeing it depends what type of facility you are, right? If you plan on NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, they all have different security measures and requirements. Baseball is different than basketball. Basketball is different than football, than hockey. There's different measures, but ultimately the obvious goal is to ensure everyone is safe. So if you're a newer building and you are starting from scratch, and you can put in different security measures that the NBA is looking to see, or the NHL is looking to see. I was hired a year before Chase Center opened.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
Even prior to coming on that arena ops team, there was a construction phase that the NBA gets involved in, obviously. And, you want to go over all of your site protection. You want to go over your access control, your monitoring, your video surveillance. And, sometimes do we want to go with look at your biometric system, look at your air intake flow and all of those measures. Sometimes, the best technology might not work. Sometimes, a system that older buildings use, but just has an update to it. go with. But yeah, I mean, do you want to have the best, not the best, but do you want to have a camera system that is, everything has also changed, right? So security cameras in 2007 are completely different in 2020. You have your command center, which is very important. You have your security teams inside monitoring X, Y, and Z. But it's also, what is crucial is working with your PD, with your fire department, and coming together. That was huge before we opened, everyone coming together. And that's how not having a law enforcement background or military background, while working at the Garden, excuse me, I worked very closely with with NYPD. And, unfortunately, due to events that happened, venues started adding more PD, after terrorist attacks that had happened. And, so, okay, now you're working with PD, and you're starting to see, okay, well, now if a fight breaks out, or if, there's an assault, how are we all working together? Because it's very different when you're inside the venue. It's very different when incidents take place. And it's very important to have that relationship, because now I'm learning, okay, I'm at the point where if an incident happens, okay, is this an arrest? Is this, okay, just separate the parties. One goes, separate the parties, do an investigation, and we work with PD, and that's that. And, or, just separate, and it's just an ejection. So, I've learned that throughout the years and through experience. I can now navigate that. But I also, working under security directors that had that law enforcement, I would learn that whole side. And then, I've had a security director who did not have venue experience, say to me, this is amazing. I'm learning so much from you on the venue side. And then in turn, I'm telling him, well, I'm learning, so much about law enforcement and how crucial some of those policies are in a venue. So it's just a collaborative effort. And you're still always, it's a partnership, 100%.
You got to work with each other, and you can't fight with each other. Like in the private sector, as a sole practitioner in that world, everybody's competing, and they have a small company. Everybody wants to get a piece of the pie. But when you're at the level you're at the Chase Center, you're forced to get along and share information. I mean, you have to for the safety and security of the guest and the customer service experience.
Yeah, 100%. Again, at the end of the day, safety and security is number one. It's number one. But you have to balance it with customer service. And
I think that's why you're where you're at, because you were so good at that in your radio days, and it transferred into the stadium days, and it just exploded because you're great at customer service. You have a master's degree in that under Tony Robbins, probably.
Well, I mean, that was all Prudential. That was all Prudential Center. So, that was, and when you just start seeing, when you're dealing with guest complaints, you get to a point where now, almost 14 years later, I already know what a ticket holder is going to complain about.
Crazy? The psychology of human behavior. You already got it studied and figured out. You see it over and over again so many times.
It's the same patterns, and you get it. People are very passionate about the teams that they root for.
Well, I'm sure they are.
It's just, and that's awesome. And it's the same thing when you have someone seeing their favorite band, people just, there's a lot of passion there, and you mix that sometimes, with other things, and, but just as many complaints or you just want to be proactive, there are as many compliments, and that's, at the end of the day, it's a live event. It's chaotic. You are all, you're making sure 18,000 people come in safely. You're monitoring your bag checks and your screening, and at the same time, the tours on the floor, calling to make sure they have everyone in place, because you want to make sure that you have You have two, at times you have hundreds of security officers positioned around your facility. Then you have hundreds of guest services employees and food and beverage and custodial. And, when you go to open doors on a live event, it's okay, we're going, and then getting those 18,000 people in, but you want to make sure the tour is set, or the players are set, or the teams are, so you're all over the place. And that's what I feel is very, very crucial in succeeding in this industry, is you have to be boots to the ground. And I've been boots to the ground since 2007. So, you have to watch your staff, not watch, but you should be walking around talking to your staff. You should get
good leadership right there.
You should be passionate about, they should know who's coming in. They should know if, the weekend is, who's the weekend, who you want to make sure that when you're meeting with your staff, you're getting them excited and, all right, you know what? The weekend's coming. Here's the target audience, and here's what to expect. And, he's a top 10 artist, and, X, Y, and Z, and get them pumped up. Because guess what? When guests come in, they have that knowledge, and
right.
They need to know the product. In this industry I said this before, you don't have to know the ins and outs of a basketball game, but if you work at a basketball facility, you should. You should know. You don't have to know every player, but you want to get your staff amped up about that. And then with the shows that come in, when you have a tour come in and you have a security officer in front of that door, you want them. They should know. Okay, this is what the band looks like, and okay, this is you get them more passionate to be there. So
you have a lot of passion.
Yeah, and just knowledge too. The hardest thing with a new building is learning the building. I was very fortunate. I was hired a year before Chase Center, and I knew that building in and out when we opened. And when you have part-time employees that came in for 2 days to train and learn the building, that's a lot. That's a lot for a part-time employee. So you have to also, I say, you make the tour and the teams comfortable. Your employees are number one. This business would not thrive the way it does without our part-time employees. They are critical. Wow. They are critical to an event running smoothly, and they are critical to a guest's experience, everyone's experience. And you have to make sure that you are treating them in that way every day they come to work. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the team that I had. And, I had a security officer at the Garden turned to me and he said, we were dealing with something on the floor, and he turned and he said, we always have your back. You're the quarterback.
Powerful.
So
very powerful.
Yeah. And you always, too, what's important for me is I want an employee to have, when I have an employee come and say, I didn't want to disappoint you, that means they care. They care. It's not just, they don't want to, you don't want to disappoint me. I mean, that's, and I've had employees say that because they go above and beyond, because I show that, and I expect anyone that is on my team to show that as well, because look, again, they are the skeleton in the building. I mean,
absolutely.
It's very important to treat everyone with respect, no matter what level you're at. So
that's a great example of servant leadership. I know John Maxwell. I've taken some John Maxwell conference courses, but that's servant leadership, leading by example. You learn that. I was in the Marine Corps too, and you learn a lot by leading by example in the Marine Corps. You don't get respect; you earn respect, and that's 100%. How it works. But
100%. I mean, that's why I've always been boots to the ground. I've had some people in the industry tell me, well, do you think that you should maybe be here, be in this area more, or, asking me just questions like, well, what do you think is best? being that
Yeah.
it's a new building, do you see me in, I've had managers or, either, and even directors, well, do you think I should be in this, it's hard. Again, live events is hard, right? You have to
It is.
designate. So, I always say you got to try to be everywhere if you can, right? But obviously you can't, right? So,
yeah.
If you build up the team, if you build a team that you can really trust, you don't have to be in every place.
Amen to that.
That's if I have a team or I don't have to be, I could be outdoors and on the floor. I can't be in two places at once, right? So,
right.
But okay, I have a manager who I don't even have to be here because I trust that he can handle this by himself. And that's the goal. You want it. You're only as good as the team that you have.
Right.
So, that's important to me too.
And that's probably why you succeeded so far and gone as far as you've done, because you understood that early on, and you understand the importance of teamwork and leadership. And like the Navy SEALs, you look at them, they don't look at themselves as SEALs, they look at themselves as a teammate.
Yeah.
You ever talk to a SEAL? Teammate, team member, and part of the team. And that's a trait we can definitely learn in the private sector.
Yeah, I mean, and
leadership,
and you learn it very quickly. I mean, you in this industry, like I said, you have all these different entities. You have PD, you have contract security teams, you have MBA security, you have touring security, you have building security, event security, then you have guest services. Because you have all these vendors coming together. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you've done, what this person does tonight. We are all going to come together and we're going to make sure that everyone coming in is safe and secure and everyone has the best guest experience possible. And that's it. That's it. That's our goal. So if you're on board, great. If not, I need you to get on board because doors are opening in an hour. And that's it. Okay? So.
Wish life was that simple. But
I know.
It's not, unfortunately.
I know. Yeah.
The cream always rises to the top. But you covered a lot of bases, a lot of ground today on our podcast, and I appreciate your time. And I'm sure we could go on for hours. I think we went on for almost an hour on this one.
No.
But it's okay. We got a lot of content, and it's just it's a different world you live in and work in, and nobody really talks about stadium security. And I saw that, and I'm like, I want to reach out to you and just see if you'd be interested in talking about your experiences and all that, because it's very vital. Because, like you said, how many organizations, businesses, artists travel? 300, whatever you said, 300 some odd events a year. That's a lot of business. That's a lot of teams and a lot of groups. So. Anyway, well, thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing your story of coming from college and radio, and now you're here, and pretty wild. I'm fascinated with your background, and it's like, whoa, I don't know many guys that are military that could do what you do and handle that chaos, and it's almost managing chaos is what you're doing, and you do it well. And congrats on your new position at Chase Center.
Thank you. This has been an awesome experience. I am honored that you had me on the podcast, and thanks.
It's been fun learning something new. I've learned a lot from you.
Well, thank you.